Alright, and something I didn't think was going to see the light of day, because I forgot about it, was the rifle that I made for this lady. Started with the shadow box. Just do some quick masking on shadow box to kind of get a shape, I guess. And of course, this is a really easy way to get very quick shapes, obviously. You could do the same thing with, just do a curve or insert cube or whatever and just dynamesh it down and do whatever. But this is another interesting way to kind of get quick shapes going. And this is my early foray into weapons, so I'm just kind of playing around here. It's nothing super serious, and like I said, I forgot about it and wasn't really meant to see the light of day, but for what it's worth, there might be something in here that's worthwhile to somebody somewhere. Same old stuff though. Insert cube, clay brush, trim dynamic, and then eventually, in keeping it sketch mode, so I can like put it in her arms and actually have her move her hand and put it underneath the, where it needs to go, and make sure it fits before I get too far into, making something that's going to take a super long time, refining shapes and building stuff and custom and blah blah blah. The cool thing about weapons is once you build one, you can usually pop off almost every single piece and put that into a custom mesh that you can use later. So again, this is the worst case scenario. Hopefully you don't start a lot of weapons from pure scratch, and if you do, save your pieces. And you can make your own railing system there with a curve brush. I have that, but just while I'm concepting, it was easy enough to go through and just do a clip rectangle and kind of get a feel for, okay, was that where I want that? Sure, okay. Replace that with the nice version of the mesh. And something like this I would have done with ZModeler now, but I think this is before ZModeler or during or something, I don't know. But I wasn't using ZModeler, and I would have now. That's something I would have done. But it was easy enough just to kind of clip the shapes down to what I needed for a banana clip thing. Quick handle. And I'm doing it with symmetry on now, right in the middle, and then I'm going to move it out to the side once I get something decent that I like. And even then, this is super sketchy. Knowing what I know now, would I have done something a little more final before I moved it over? Possibly. Probably. Yeah, just moving it around, seeing what works best, seeing if, maybe having it stick out the side isn't the coolest thing. Again, this is just a sketch. This is the equivalent of, it's not I wouldn't say it's equivalent of a thumbnail. I'm doing a little bit more exploration than just shapes and stuff. I'm actually doing a little bit of, functionality and design stuff too, but close to that. Super simple sketch exploration. And again, if you have a library of gun parts to choose from, instead of making everything from scratch, by all means, grab a handle, grab a trigger, grab a banana clip you've already made, canister, a barrel, rail, all that stuff. Or a scope, like I'm about to build here. And to pull out those sharp corners, I think that's probably, so on the remove brush, you can go to the curve options, turn on Accu. I have a move Accu that I use to pull out meshes to sharp corners. kind of square things off as opposed to just kind of, you can use snake hook too. I think I mostly use snake hook for moving stuff around nowadays. Gives you a little bit more leeway in the move brush, but for big solid changes, move brush is still probably the best. And just, deciding what I want to have broken off. So I haven't broken them off yet, but I'm adding weird little scope things now. And I haven't broken off the panels on the gun yet, the big plastic looking panels, but they're kind of where I want them. And then I don't take this thing to final, so it stays pretty sketchy, and I don't ever actually end up using it, but for what it's worth. Another thing you can do is when you insert something, like a bar, and you need to cut a hole in it, just duplicate it off, cut the hole, and then you have your bar sitting right in the hole you cut. It just works. It just fits. I vaguely remember that back end feeling a little heavy, so I think I lighten it up, poke some holes through it. It's still very spacey. It's a lot of curve shapes. I don't usually like that, where everything's a bunch of curves and stuff. But this one's a little bit more organic than usual. That would be another good Z modeler candidate. But it was simple enough to just kind of make a quick thing. And just like a character, once you get a sketch done, throw it in. Make sure it works. I'm probably taking... I probably should have... Well, I guess since it's such a sketch, I can merge this all together, and I think I do this eventually, where I throw it, give it to her, and then make sure that she'll be able to pick it up and put her hands where she's supposed to on the weapon. But, you can do that at every stage too. It's fairly simple to do. Just make sure everything's a single polygroup, merge visible, throw it over there, mush it around, pull it around, transpose it around, and then divide everything back up, subtool group split, and then go from there. Start refining back up. Yeah, this is where I kind of lightened up that back end. And I keep trying to make a canister work somewhere on this weapon. I don't know if it eventually ends up actually working, but I stuck one in there. And then, like I said before, if you've got a scope, start there. If you don't, you can make one real quick. But and again, this is another example of a perfect opportunity for a Z modeler. I keep saying that. I'm sorry, but cylinder and bevel and all that stuff. I'm just doing it manually on Dynamesh, but use what makes sense. And I'm trying to get better at, if I'm making something and it's supposed to be concept, I'm doing a lot of exploring. I don't mind I keep it as low res as possible, but at the same time, if you keep it high res enough, you can kind of skip the sketch refine stage, and you can kind of sometimes, if you think really far ahead and you're building things correctly and you're confident in what you want to see, you can almost skip the form refine and the final. It can actually just be something you bake. Just build it and you're done, as opposed to sketch it out, feel it out, rebuild the forms, crease it, go in and add detail. If you can do that from the start, by all means. I can do that for some stuff, and I'm trying to do that for a lot of stuff now. Skip a little bit of the sketching stage if I know that I can go a little bit final, a little bit faster. And like I said, with a weapon, once you build a weapon, you can pop all these pieces off and you can use them later on another weapon, and it all kind of works, because a lot of weapons are just a hodgepodge of stuff. Similar stuff. So that'll save you some time too. I'm just adding a little area here to drop a little metal ring around. So basically, mask, polygroup, polish by features to kind of get a nice, with the open circle to kind of get a really nice shape, and then just go to stroke, put a curve right on the border edge with the border edge selected, and then it'll just drop a little loop, a little curve around that area, and you've got a perfect little metal thing. And here's where everything gets merged together. Make sure it fits in our arms. And then snap everything back out and make sure, go ahead and scale it down, the original. And then you got a little rifle she can use. Put it in game.